What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the next installment in our series Building a Render Engine in C++ using NCurses. In today's tutorial, we're going to cover the long-awaited topic of lighting. During the last few tutorials, we've mainly covered the implementation of a shader system, but so far we actually haven't done anything with it. Today I'm going to prove to you that code is not pointless, and it actually makes life a lot easier when it comes to implementing render effects. With that out of the way, let's jump right into the code. Alright, so the first thing that we want to do is go into main.cpp and switch the order of the rotate and scale, because I actually made a mistake here. We need to have it in translate, rotate, then scale order. I'm just going to make a couple changes to this, just to change the axis of rotation, mix things up a bit. And the next thing we need to do is go into basic shader.h, and this is where all the magic is going to happen in today's tutorial, because we're going to be implementing the Fragment Shader. But first of all, we need to actually make changes to the Vertex Shader, because this is how the data is going to be making it into the Fragment Shader. The normal is loaded from the model, from the model's VAO, and we're accessing it from the second attribute position. But we're going to need to do math on that normal in order to calculate lighting. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is actually create a light position uniform. So create int location light position, and then create a vector3 called light position. In init shader, we want to allocate space in the uniform buffer for this object. So location light position is equal to uniforms.bind, and just give it the position of the light. And it's a vector3, so it'll allocate 3 floats behind the scenes. In the prepare method, this is where we're going to be doing the loading of the normal after the user sets it. So uniform.get location light position, and we give it the light position as a vector3 reference. And that's going to be called right before execute, as you probably recall. And now in execute, this is the final area we need to do stuff with. We're going to actually create a translated normal position as a vector4 and set it equal to transformation multiplied by the vector4 of the normal. So we pass normal.x, normal.y, and norm.z. And we give it 0 for the homogeneous coordinate, which is basically the amount of the translation that's applied to it. Of course, normals are only rotated, so you don't need to translate it at all. And then you have a vector4 for the world position, and set it equal to transformation multiplied by the vector4 of the position x, position y, and position z. And of course, we're translating all the position onto it, so we give it a 1 for the homogeneous coordinate. Okay. With that out of the way, we need to bind the translated normal to the slot 0. So you take the attributes out and you call bind, and you give it the vector3 with the translated normal.x, translated normal.y, and translated normal.z. And that'll bind to location 0, the normal. And of course, in the fragment shader, it's interpolated across the entire object, so that'll work. So next we need to bind the position to output 1, the position of the object, excuse me. And we want it to be we need to bind the relative light position in the transformation space, which is the light position, and you subtract the world position. And the world position is, of course, the transformation matrix times the position. So you subtract the light position from the world position to get a vector that points from the position to the light. And of course, once again, that's interpolated across the object. If we run that, you'll notice that it doesn't change anything because we haven't done anything in the fragment shader. And this is where the beauty of it all happens. Let's just go ahead and delete everything here to begin with. And let's load in the surface normal as well as the light position. Now remember the interface we have of passing the vectors from the Vertex Shader to the Fragment Shader. First create float brightness, and then we need to do attributes, dot get, you just give it the location 0 and then the surface normal, excuse me. And if you recall from a couple seconds ago, we bound the surface normal to position 0 of the attributes out. So in the attributes in, it's going to be in the same position. So you do attributes.get 0 surface normal. And then to get the toLight vector, we use the first position and you pass in toLight vector, which we of course bound to position 1. Okay. So now the math occurs. This is where we calculate the actual lighting on the point. You do surface normal.normalize and you do toLight vector.normalize just to be sure. And that'll get the vectors coming out of the object and the vectors to the light. So first I'll just show you that the fragment shader is working properly. It's outputting all C's for the object, which is what I set it to do a second ago. Now, the way lighting works is you actually get an angle between the two objects, and that's calculated with the surface normal dot the toLight vector. And that result is equal to the angle between the light vector and the surface normal. And that's essentially the effect of the lighting that it has on the object. So now we're going to clamp the brightness between the current brightness value and 0.19. And then we're going to take the the complement of the brightness because we need to do that in order to get the actual shade. Then we multiply that by the number of shades to get the interpolated value in the shades list. And then simply we return the shades sub the integer of the brightness. And that's going to get the brightness value at that point. Alrighty. So that's actually all we need to do in this, or at least for the basic shader. The next thing we need to do is set the uniform for the lighting, or the light position. And that's what we're going to do here. vs.getUniforms, and you want to call set with the vs.location light position. And for the position, I'm just going to give it a generic position at like 0, 0, -1 or something, or actually 10. It should be a positive value. And if we run this, it looks weird. Now, why does it look weird? It's actually because of the depth that we're working with. It's trying to render the triangles onto the screen in a certain order, but it's not taking into account the depth, so it's overwriting pixels that might be behind it. Now, in order to fix this, we're going to need to go into rasterizer.cpp. And down in the render triangle function, I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, rasterize triangle. At the bottom, right before the set pixel, you'll notice there's a 0 there, which basically means that it's not using the lighting. So we want to calculate the depth at this fragment and store it there instead of 0. That'll make it so it won't overwrite pixels that are behind the object or in front of the object or the current fragment. So you calculate this with the vertex1.z divided by the w multiplied by the barycentric x-coordinate, and you do the second one, same exact math. But you multiply it by the y-coordinate of the barycentric, and then you take the third one, divide it by the w, and multiply it by the barycentric.z. And just like that, we have the frag depth. So the depth buffer t is going to be equal to the final depth, or the frag depth multiplied by the max depth value. And if you recall, we set this in one of the early tutorials, but I want to make this a 16-bit thing just for added accuracy. So update those two values, and it's going to be a number between 0 and 2 to the power of 16 minus 1. And then you pass in the final depth to the set pixel function, and as you can see here, it says if depth is less than the depth buffer at that index, then only then do you write the pixel. So what that's going to do is make it so it won't overwrite pixels when unnecessary. If we give it run, we'll be able to see it in action. There you go. And you'll notice that the entire thing is black, and that's actually because I made another mistake. The models that we're using for this are unupdated, and they actually don't work with this object. So if we set this to -1, you'll see it works, but that's incorrect. The reason why is because I actually inverted all the normals on the object by accident. So in order to fix that, I want you to go ahead and download a bunch of new objects and use them instead. And they're all in the GitHub. So if we change that back to 10, and then we switch this to B2, which is the updated object. If we run it, well, that's a little bit big, but you notice it does work. And let's push that back just a bit. So instead of at -1, let's say -3. And if we run it, you'll see it works just perfectly. It's pretty beautiful. Okay. So I'm just going to make one small change, and we're going to switch it to text, and I'll show you what it looks like and show you that it works with any object. I actually want to bring this one a bit closer to like -2 or something. I think -2 will do it. All right, so you can see that the lighting works perfectly on any model as long as you don't invert the normals like I did. And that's just because I took the scale and I made it a negative scale. And that's just not something you want to do. So with the positive scale values, it works flawlessly. All right, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned. And in the next tutorial, we're going to cover texture mapping. And then after that, the next couple tutorials, we're going to actually deal with one small thing that you may have noticed. And that's what happens when the vertices are behind the camera. You notice that there were some issues with that, and that's what we're going to fix in the next couple tutorials. All right, and I'll see you all next time.